Okay, I'm working on my field sweater green stitching sample here, and I've already completed rows 1 and 2, so I'm now on row or round 3, and this is where I'm going to be using my cable needle. So on my swatch here I have a couple of edge stitches here that I'm just going to knit and get out of the way. And now I have my first set of stitches here. So on round 3 it says you should have 5 stitches, and you will have 5 stitches if you count each of your grains as 1 stitch. So I have 1 stitch here, I have 3 loops to my grain stitch, which counts as 1 stitch. Those are my yarn overs. And then I have a stitch, another grain stitch made up of 3 loops here, and then my last stitch, so a 5 stitch repeat. So what I'm going to do first is the first stitch on my needle, left needle here, I'm going to place on my cable needle and leave it in the back. Then I'm going to knit my first grain stitch, my 3 loops together. So I'm knitting these 3 loops together. And then I'm going to bring that stitch that I held in the back on my cable needle, and I'm going to knit that stitch. My next stitch is the stitch that I have between my 2 grain stitches, and that gets slipped. And then I'm going to place the next grain stitch on my cable needle and hold it in the front. I'm going to knit my last stitch of my repeat, and then this time I'm going to knit the 3 loops of the grain that I have on hold on my cable needle through the back loop. This is going to twist those stitches towards the left and place that first stitch here forward. So we've got grain stitch going to the right, a knit, a slip, a knit, and a grain stitch going towards the left. So let's do that again. First stitch of our 5 stitch repeat here, we're going to place on our cable needle, holding it in the back. Knit those first 3 loops, and really make sure that you're finding just the 3 loops and you're not grabbing that middle stitch. You just want to knit those 3 loops there, making up the grain stitch. They're coming out of 1 stitch below it, in the round below. We're going to knit those together. Knit the stitch on our cable needle. My stitches here. Put those back up on my needle. All right, next stitch gets slipped, purlwise, yarn in the back, and then I'm going to place my next grain stitch, those 3 loops, on my cable needle, hold it in the front. Knit the last stitch of my repeat. Have that twisted on my needle. I'm just going to turn that around. Knit that. And then knit my grain stitch through the back loop. End of my 5 stitch repeat. So, one more time. First stitch on our cable needle in the back, knit our 3 loops making up our grain, 1, 2, 3, knit those together. Knit the stitch on the cable needle, slip the next stitch, purlwise, yarn in the back, place your next grain stitch, 3 loops, 1, 2, 3, on your cable needle, hold it in front, knit that last stitch of your repeat, and then knit the grain stitches through the back loop. All right, that is our round 3. Next video will show round 4, which is our very relaxing round. These 4 rows make up the basic repeat that you'll be repeating throughout this sweater. So more to come.